Hey, everybody. This is So Many Sequels, your book club for movies. I'm Josh.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm David.
Welcome to the show. It is Rob Reiner month here on So Many Sequels.
Little R&R, guys.
I think he
let him
would
have a
hate that
microphone.
joke.
Don't let him have a microphone.
Yeah. Well, it's good you got the joke out now because, we're not talking about a funny movie today necessarily.
That's true. No.
Considering Rob Reiner's body of work, but we're talking about Stand By Me, which is a film directed by Rob Reiner, based on a short story. Or is it a short story? Or is it I don't know.
It's a novella.
Okay, a novella by Stephen King, which is.
It's not what you expect from a Stephen King situation. It's the very life of Chuck, except not happy. It is sad. Dish.
Yeah, well, and I was thinking, with Misery, this would be the second Stephen King adaptation he's
also
directed.
true.
I
Yeah.
didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
At the time. So that's interesting. We're talking about Stand By Me. If you haven't subscribed to the show yet, be sure you do that on YouTube or Spotify for the video. Wherever you get
subscribe.
Hit the button.
Please do it. Please do it in spite of that.
You've probably force quit the app by now, but that's fine. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. You can go to somanysequels.com and find all those links and more, including our social media, where you can share with us what you think about Stand By Me or your favorite Rob Reiner movies. Other movies we've talked about this month include A Few Good Men, the Princess Bride.
You can do it.
I can't. I don't know why I struggle every time. This is Spinal Tap.
This is Spinal
And then
Tap.
finally, this one today, Stand By Me.
Let us know your least favorite Rob Reiner
Previously, we have, prior to this month, you can find these at somanysequels.com and on our Spotify. And we have talked about The American President, Misery, and there's one other one we did.
When Harry Met
Sally. That's it. I mean, it's all those best hits, really.
Yep. So go check that out again at somanysequels.com. All right. Today, though, Stand By Me. After learning that a boy their age has been accidentally killed near their rural homes, 4 boys decide to go see the body. Gordy, Vern, Chris, and Teddy encounter a mean junk man and a marsh full of leeches, but they also learn more about one another and their very different home lives. Just a lark at first, the boys' adventure evolves into a defining event in their lives. And this has a incredible cast of young men, young boys. These are child actors, but they're all iconic in their own ways. The 4 boys are led by Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, the late River Phoenix, Corey Feldman, and Jerry O'Connell.
Gordy was Will Wheaton. I did not put that together till this moment.
Yeah, Gordy was Will Wheaton.
I did not process.
Didn't realize that
was familiar, but I guess I didn't pay enough attention to the.
Nikki also struggled with that.
Really? Yeah, I love Will Wheaton. He's great. We were talking off mic about Big Bang Theory.
Yeah,
he's great. He's great in Big Bang. He's great in Star Trek.
Remember his tabletop YouTube show?
Yeah, I do actually.
Yes.
He ought to bring that back because that stuff's kind of back again.
Heck yeah! Come on, Will.
Will, do it. He would be furious about this. So anyway, David, what was the box office for Stand By Me when it came out back in 1986?
Well, it debuted the weekend. I have that wrong here on my stats here, but it debuted the weekend of August 8th, 1986. This is another situation. So this has happened at least 3 times with Rob Reiner movies, what we talked about. Opened very small in just 16 theaters to $242,000. However, this one did end up getting a very big, a much wider release than some of his other movies. Because in its 3rd week, August 22nd, it would move all the way up to the number 2 spot with 3.8 million. But I'm going to focus in on its best weekend, which was weekend number 4, Labor Day weekend, 1986, when Stand By Me was the number 1 movie in America, just ahead of Top Gun, which was in its 16th week, I believe.
Dang!
So Top Gun was a big runner for a long time. But Stand By Me for this 1 week in the year managed to be the best. Actually, it was number 1 the week after too, but it got to the top spot with $5 million in 801 theaters. It would go on to be a really good run with 52.8 million in the United States, and about a million point two overseas for a worldwide total of just over $53 million. So for a film like this, which is kind of a coming of age book adaptation, do it really well, and was actually the number 13 movie of 1986. It's 1986. We have said this kind of often a lot lately. But a great year for movies. It's our fourth time traveling to this particular year. We've done Top Gun in the past. You can find that episode. We did The Great Mouse Detective a few years back for animation, August. And then our most recent trip to 1986 was Friday the 13th, part, what is this? Part 4, I believe. No, sorry, part 6, Jason Lives.
Yes.
That was our most recent trip. But other great movies from 1986 include, like I said, Top Gun, the number 2 movie of the year, Crocodile Dundee, Platoon, Karate Kid Part 2. We actually mentioned Karate Kid last week when we did our Spinal Tap. And then Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, also came out that year. But it was also the year of Aliens, The Golden Child, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Color of Money. And is there one more in here? Pretty in Pink came out that year. So anyway, good year for movies. Good year for Stand By Me, which I think of the movies we've talked about recently for this is one of Rob Reiner's more financially successful films in his first run. One of the few that's not a cult classic. It's just a classic.
Had anybody not seen this before?
Twas my first time.
It was your first time. Okay. Well, what were your what did you know about it going into it? What were your expectations?
I knew that it was the start, kind of like The Outsiders was for a lot of young actors to be able to kind of start their career.
Yeah.
Clearly, I have forgotten Will Wheaton was in it. I knew Jerry O'Connell was in it, but he was so unrecognizable to me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like the chubbiness. It was just his whole face looked different. So it didn't look like the Jerry O'Connell that I'm used to. So that was a big surprise. And then, because of River Phoenix, I didn't really get a chance to know him that well. But I knew that it was the launch of a lot of younger folks and that it was a coming of age story that involved a dead body. And truthfully, that was really all that I knew. So I didn't have a lot of expectations or thoughts kind of going into it. I didn't even know it was a Stephen King novella until you mentioned that. So I was really kind of in the dark on it.
Wow. Okay. Well, actually, well, I'll ask David then. How many times have you seen this a bunch? Have you seen it once? What's your relationship?
I feel like I only saw it once, and I'm not really entirely sure why I was shown this movie, but I think I was maybe 10 to 12 years old. It feels like something I saw at my grandparents' house because my uncle was watching us or something. I don't know. But I was young enough that I was kind of the age roughly of the kids. And I remember being just super unsettled by the movie. Specifically, we'll get into it later, but Will Wheaton's, Gordy's story about Lardass, I was really unsettled by as a kid. It just grossed me out. And then also
them blueberry pie stream.
Them getting covered in leeches gave me a long-term fear of leeches. So I remember little bits of it. And I remember being just kind of I remember liking the movie, but also being a little bit scared.
Well, yeah, you're gonna get a leech in your pants.
Yeah, I didn't want to be.
That's the worst place I would think to have a leech.
Didn't want to even touch water.
No, not at all. Yeah,
I don't. There might be a leech in there.
not gonna say it. I don't remember the first time I saw this, but I remember seeing it often enough. Again, probably one that was. Feel like this is like a cable TV movie that was on often. So I don't really have a story to go with it. It's just kind of always been there. So going into it this time, I kind of was like, okay, I need to really focus up on what is this movie? Because I've seen it several times when I was younger. Hadn't watched it in a long time. but just never really, I don't know, gave it an adult analysis, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
So I was excited to do that, and I don't know. I don't know that my feeling it was any different in the end. It's a great movie, but when I say feeling, I mean like I don't know. It's a realistic ending, but it's also kind of a gut punch of an ending. It's a gut punch of a movie in
Yeah.
so many ways. Um, how did you guys feel about it? Like, what was the gut reaction to this movie when it ended?
I feel like I liked a lot of elements of it, but I'm not exactly sure I understand what the point or the takeaway is. You know,
Sure.
it I don't exactly understand the excitement and the purpose of why they wanted to go find the body, other than, I mean, that's a long way away. That's a long way away that they are going to find this body. Um, and that just seems like an odd thing to do to bond over at the time. I understand that these kids have really rough home lives, and I think that was something to kind of that played into this. They only felt good when they were there. Nobody was going to miss them, and this was their adventure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very similar to the Goonies. I had some Goonie vibes as
Mhm.
I was watching this. Um, so there's a lot of bonding that takes place in this. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure the dots were fully connected and the circle was closed on what the point was for the whole thing.
What do you think about that, David? What
Well,
do you feel the point is?
I think it's the point is very much trying to, I think, cherish the moments of your life and the connections in your life while you still can. And there's also, I think, there's some layering in here about parenthood and fatherhood, and all these boys kind of have a rough experience with their families and with their fathers
Yes.
specifically.
Hmm.
And then, for the boys, I mean, you gotta, I think you gotta layer in a few other things of like, this is the '50s. And so, like, there ain't much else to do.
Fair.
What
That
else
is
So,
to do
true.
but go
and
find a body?
That's fair.
they thought they would be heroes
That's
if they
also
went and
true.
found this
They
missing
did. I mean,
kid.
they bought a comb.
They brought it home so they could be on the news. So there was, but that's all, a lot of that's the impetus to go on the journey, but also it's just about, I think, young boys at the turning point of becoming young men. And that last moment where you get to kind of be vulnerable, like you can kind of cry as I mean, things have come a long way in certain respects, but you can, as a young boy, you can cry in front of your friends and like they might tease you a little bit, but also they, it's not weird, to freak out about something,
Yeah.
and then also you have just this, I don't know, the idea too, they come towards the end and they kind of like, it was more or less the last time they really hung out together. And you put those kind of thoughts away until something shakes you. And at the very beginning of the movie, something shakes the narrator, Richard Dreyfuss, who plays sort of
Richard
adult,
Dreyfuss, little
right?
baby.
Plays adult Gordy, right? And
Yeah.
then we get this flashback to this sort of pivotal moment in his head, and um so yeah, I don't know, like you kind of said the life of Chuck a minute ago, but it's with minimal, there's no supernatural here, there's not a lot of odd things going on. It's a very straightforward story here, and those are kind of the ones that I like the most from Stephen King. Obviously, I'm not super into scary stuff, but the ones that are really more about like some of the prettier parts of humanity that are kind of tangled up in the ugly parts of humanity, those are always great. That Shawshank Redemption, Green Mile obviously has some supernatural, but that one kind of I include a little too.
Yeah, to me, this one is it really is about. I think in a through this filtered lens of this story about this journey to find a dead body, which is kind of almost could be distracting from it, is that yeah, there are friendships and people in your lives that are maybe just there for a moment in time, whether and that could be a few years, 10 years, whatever. But it's about what you
The
said, David,
experiences.
is the experiences and not taking granted for or not taking them for granted when they happen. That's one of the things at the end. Grown up Gordy talks about he's learning about Chris's death, um, and he says he hasn't seen him in about a decade, but he'll miss him forever because you don't have to. He doesn't have to still be in contact with him to cherish what he meant to him in that part of his life, and that's what I get from the movie. But the the body part is almost people. I think a lot of people probably want to focus on. But what about the body? It's not about that so much, other than I think that there is something. And I don't know. I would like to read the book now to see if the novella to see if it goes deeper into it. There is something that you hear, and I think that you experience when you do see a dead body for a body for the first time in real life that also like snaps some of that childhood like innocence out of you.
Mhm.
That I think is also at play here when they discover Ray's body.
Yeah, and I mean the body is the impetus. It could have been anything, like like the Goonies. It could have been a treasure map. It could have been whatever, but it's all to put them on this place where they're fairly unsupervised already, but they have to rely on each other. It puts them in this place of having to actually listen to each other maybe a little more. You also get this is a classic. I try to think of other great movies that have this component, but you have a four-man setup here. So you can kind of have scenes where you split two off to do something, and then you have the two others can kind of when you have three, it's like you can't really split one off to be by themselves. Like why are they ignoring that guy? But you can have Corey Feldman and Jerry O'Connell's character kind of scamper off and sing songs while you have a more serious moment between Will Wheaton and Phoenix's characters. Um, and but a good four-man setup is really great. You have a lot, you can bounce a lot of things off of each other that way.
One of the things that, I really again enjoyed was the true showing of a vulnerable young relationship.
Mhm.
These guys, they are saying anytime that they are showing their emotions and they call themselves pussies for like,
Mhm.
they just lean in. And that is such a thing that you like as a guy, you lose that ability to feel like it's safe to be vulnerable at a certain time. And I feel like this is, the dead body could be the moment where they feel like they're grown and they can't talk about these kinds of things and what they went through in those moments. Maybe it did change them. It's something, a lot of people don't see dead bodies in that kind of real situations. They see them at
Not
funerals.
in the forest like that.
No,
Exactly.
I
So,
mean, or stand up to the bully in their life in like a really dramatic situation like they did.
mhm.
Um, no, I think you're right. And there's both there's a oldish mentality that's built into this too. A lot of people in movies, when you talk about the concepts around masculinity and how young men are raised and things like that, there's a difficulty. They're at a turning point here, and obviously this is written in the '80s, set in the '50s. Like there are some antiquated language maybe in some spaces,
Of course, yeah.
but that challenge to be like, oh, I have to be a man, and it's like it's not necessarily. I hesitate to even say it's not even necessarily being a man versus being a woman. It's like they don't want to be babies, and they
Yeah.
don't want to be little kids, and so you want to be tough and grown up in front of your friends and in front of these bullies and stuff. You don't want to get pushed around like a little kid, and so you have to kind of it's an early point in your life where you start to realize like you kind of have to harden yourself, shield yourself. You can't let yourself be um you have to cut yourself off from sort of the emotions that you might want to express all the time. Um and I think that's something they're going through here too. If they don't know how to deal with the ways they still feel sad about things. Like Gordy himself, it really doesn't know how to deal with his brother's loss of his brother because
Well,
his
and his
parents are
brother was the
struggling.
only one. I think his brother was the only one that John Cusack. By the way, that came out of nowhere for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's the only one who understood, who showed that he understood his brother.
Mhm.
We are more of an artistic group in this community than a sports group. David, you and I grew up playing sports, but that's not really where like my passion or anything lied. And I'm grateful to have had a dad who was interested in what I was interested in. It
Mm,
didn't matter one way or another, but so many boys, specifically, who grow up with not having a football, a baseball, some kind of sport that they can fall back on. They that is a thing that they go through, and they feel like they can't connect, or they struggle to connect or understand their dad, or their dad struggles to understand them, and there's this real big disconnect. That's a huge thing. And all of these boys seemingly had some father issues that were pointed
yeah,
out through this. And it's a the vulnerability that you can't show there, you can show with your friends, and your friends can be there to support you. um, which is why I also was kind of surprised at how the ending kind of happened, where they fell apart, because this did seem like this moment where they did bond in a closer way. I know those two did, and they continued on afterwards, and there was a little bit of separation, but it did seem like they had just grown closer, only to feel like they immediately fall apart. So that's kind of where some of that
yeah.
circle doesn't quite connect for me.
Yeah, it's just sort of I think, and it's a very I think somewhat realistic commentary, and sometimes life just pulls you apart. I've had people that I thought were probably my best friends for like a long chunk of time. Like I had a friend who we were best friends for 10 years. I mean,
Sure.
actually going back for longer than that, we were friends from kindergarten through our senior year.
Sure.
Um, we were briefly separated between the years of you know, uh, like 3rd and 6th grade because of just classes. Like, we just weren't in the same class. So all of a sudden, we weren't really friends because we didn't know any other way to communicate with each other than seeing each other at school. Phones have probably done away with that, I'm sure. But but yeah, I mean, since I moved to Oklahoma, we exchanged a few. We talked a few times after that, but we really haven't talked again since. Sometimes life just pulls you away, and you don't really know it's happening when it's happening. You just suddenly, slowly stop, seeing people or talking to people. And you look up, and it's been 5 years since you've talked to someone, or or something like that. And it's a very difficult struggle, but I
That's
think
what
it's a
happened to
realistic
Gordy.
touch.
It's like 10
Yeah,
years passed and he read about his friend's death in the newspaper.
yeah. He
Yeah.
looks up, and all of a sudden, like it just hits you, and so I mean that really kind of sparks the story from there.
How did you guys feel about River Phoenix? I feel like we can talk about all of the characters real quick. River Phoenix's character, such a leader, but also, seemingly coming from a family that has not a great reputation in the area based on the Milk Bunny story and the teacher that took advantage of him.
Yeah.
I was a little, I'm not surprised that he would be the leader of that group. Um, but also, it seems like a little surprised that it wasn't Gordy.
No, it's very much it's comparable, I feel like, to like The Sandlot, where you have like Benny Rodriguez, who's a little bit bigger, a
Yeah.
little bit tougher.
Felt like The
Um,
Sandlot a lot of times.
and then you have your character that's kind of, I think, he's your protagonist. He's the one that we're probably more expected to insert with a little bit, a little bit shy, a little bit bold, but not fully there yet. And Chris Rivers' character, Chris, seems like a character that's already figured out some things. But he's just, like if Chris's family didn't have such a bad reputation, Chris would probably be like a super smart kid.
And
But
he
That's
doesn't
also,
wanna be in that situation
yeah,
either.
that's the sad thing, the tragic thing about the Chris character is that he has had to grow up and parent himself in a lot of ways. Like him being the natural leader in some ways it's almost a con just as much as it is as a pro. To
hmm
have another kid out there be the one who's having to be the adult sometimes. But he's been put in an unfair situation where the sins of his parents are put onto him essentially.
yeah.
It's not fair.
When Ford Gordy ends up
So
filling
he's
in
had to
this,
prove himself.
yeah, he's had to take a lot of responsibility for himself, and because of that, even though he's the same age as Gordy, he ends up filling in this big brother role that Gordy's desperately needing. He had his closest friend was his brother, and so Chris is able to fill it in and help him push through to what he needs to be, after that. And Gordy's able to help in return. But I think when you talk about if you want to talk about River Phoenix specifically, I mean this is a really really good performance for a kid in his second film. Like this is
Yeah.
like the second movie, and this is probably the first. Like this is his first large role, and he captures exactly who Chris Chambers is supposed to be. He feels tough, but also harboring a lot of insecurity himself. And you just like every time Gordy gets picked on, you want Chris to to jump in and save him, but he can't always. And so yeah, I think it's a fantastic job by River Phoenix in that.
Mhm.
Then we got Corey Feldman
Mhm.
as I don't remember his name.
Teddy, right?
Teddy, thank you. Yeah.
Eddie's a little
Corey
nuts.
Feldman, he's such a good kid actor. Um, he was really again, you get his chaos and craziness. I would argue that his dodging of the train was not a dodging of the train. If you're sitting there waiting for it, you're not dodging a train. The secondary part was dodging a train. The second train. Say that 5 times fast. The second train chase was more of a dodge, but I felt like he did a really solid job of rounding out that character by just really loyal to his friends, a little wild often, but also he idolizes his dad despite the fact that he went through those things. And again, that's a kid who is trying to get over something by kind of not pretending that it didn't happen and that he's got, this trauma
Mhm.
and that other people can't see it. And as we've learned over time, PTSD is a real thing. So, that's clearly what his dad was going through at the time.
Corey Feldman is such an
Yeah.
explosive young actor at this point in his career. He has like the rhythm and timing of an adult comic, and I think this character was probably very tough for him, but it was like I don't know, like there's one for two things. There's a specific line where right after he like defends his dad to that junk guy, and he's like really pissed off that his dad keeps getting insulted. Where Will Wheaton's character Gordy says to himself, "I couldn't understand how Teddy could be so defensive of his father and so proud of his father, who legitimately tried to kill him and has beaten him to death, and he hates his dad, who's never hit him once. Like
Yeah.
Gordy hates his own dad, or like doesn't like has almost no feeling for his dad, who like has never once laid a hand on him, hasn't never done anything outwardly mean, other than just maybe doesn't pay attention to him as much as his brother. And I'm just like, man, that is just such like a real like thing in young men's lives. Like there are people who have like just this dedication to their fathers, even though they're terrible people, and people who like just don't care about their dads at all, even though their dads are like totally nice guys or totally not normal people. It's such a like it's crazy. But then also want to say Corey Feldman on a tear at this point in his career. So like from 1984 to 1987, he does Friday the 13th, which
Yes.
Gary, you and I watched the final chapter.
Oh, yeah.
Then he has Gremlins, Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, The Goonies, Stand By Me, and The Lost Boys, just back to back to back to back to back. This kid was everywhere.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
And that's just
Um,
those 4 years.
we can't skip Vern now because we talked to everyone else.
Yes, of
covered
course,
everyone
Jerry
else.
O'Connell.
Jerry O'Connell as the Vern character.
Mhm.
He's the tag along, I guess, if you were to
Mhm.
call him anything. Yeah, he's very insecure. He's just there because he wants to be included, I think, right?
Yeah. He is a bit of a dweeb, and I feel like, they're kind of outcast kids within
Jokes on
their
them,
class.
they're all dweebs, and only some of them are aware.
Yeah.
He's a bit more he's the most dweeb coded. Um and it but in like a such a sincere way. He's the sincere dweeb. That's the way I guess I look at it. He's very excitable, he's the scaredy cat, he's the chew toy, things bad, they all the if something bad's gonna happen, it's gonna happen to Vern. And but also Jerry O'Connell he also like a good job in this because he is both funny and like you just go, oh man, I knew he was gonna do something stupid like that.
I yelled at him so much when they were on the train and he was
On that
on
train
all
track.
fours. And I was like, man, you're the one who brought up the fact that you're scared of the train. Get up and run. There's no way you can
Run.
be more faster on all
He
fours.
starts
Get
crawling
up and go.
faster.
Right.
I'm
And
like, "Get
he's
up!"
like, of all the kids, it's certainly not revealed anyway, that he has any real problems to
Right.
deal
We
with.
don't know much about his
He's
home
the
life.
most
He lost his
scared.
pennies. That's his
Right.
biggest
Yeah.
problem right now.
So
His brother
many
sucks.
Right, his brother sucks, but, like, okay, a lot of everybody's sibling sucks at some point in
Sure.
growing up lives.
Yeah.
Get over it, Vern. These other kids have real trauma in their lives, and you're, like, scared to go outside.
He lost his penny, man.
Well, you're right. Stay tuned, we'll get rid of those eventually too.
PTSD. Oh, yeah.
You're gonna lose all your pennies, Vern.
Ah! What do we think about so we're talking about Rob Reiner this month. How do we feel
Yeah.
about his influence on this? Again, my biggest takeaway is he allows characters to breathe and grow. And this was another chance for these young actors to show at that opportunity. You don't get a lot of movies that are dedicated to kids these age who are actually these ages and letting them act. And he's able to get the best out of them.
I think that is what I would say is what Rob Reiner brings best to this movie as the director is his restraint and letting them do what they need to do. Because this movie isn't filled with some of the Rob Reinerisms, I guess, of some of the others we've talked about. There's not a random Billy Crystal appearance.
Right.
There's not some of these other things. He's really pulled back to tell the story, and show himself as like, no, I can tell this story too. I can do this and take it seriously from the novel or however it's done. But that's what I would say.
Yeah, I would say that um, my biggest thing that I have picked up on with Rob Reiner movies since we've started watching them is Rob Reiner is an excellent collaborator. He brings together all the best talent, and maybe I don't know if he had like a consistent casting director he worked with, but while this movie doesn't have some of his favorite, like repeats that he uses, it's still stacked with an incredible cast of people who either went on to do big things or had already
Mhm.
been established as having as like big players. He brings them together. Again, if you could make an argument that Rob Reiner has directed two of the best Stephen King adaptations. I don't even know if you had to make an argument. I think he has like
Yeah.
if the top three, like if some would say like The Shining's probably number one, but Stand By Me and Misery have to be like in the top five with it. And I would say that
Stephen King month coming soon.
I mean
Write it down.
we could easily do it. He's
October.
got
I
like
will.
Nikki and I were looking at it, and there have been at least 70 plus adaptations of Stephen King stories. And some have been done multiple times. But we could easily do that. And like this is, so like he might have the best Aaron Sorkin film. He might have the best Stephen King film. Like he brings other people's work together so perfectly. Yeah. And then, you know, I think this one maybe more than I haven't watched again. We haven't watched all of them. We watched 7 of them now. But this one more than any of the ones that we've watched before felt the most like jukeboxy. Like this one had a lot of music from obviously the 50s, but
Yeah.
there was a lot of needle drops in this, and I was really kind of digging it. It really sold the moment, but
It was a bopper of a soundtrack.
for sure, not and beyond just the obligatory inclusion of "Stand by Me," which is a banger song. But
Yes.
I mean, just tons of great music in this, and that really helped influence the feeling, I think, as well.
I think, my takeaway from Rob Reiner's month is that he's got 2 major superpowers. And to piggyback off of the collaboration piece, David, world
Mhm.
building.
Mhm.
Every movie that we've seen, I get sucked into the world because it's
Yes.
real. There's not a lot of CG. It is reality, real sets, real moments. Even if it is like a green screen of them walking on a train, they were actually in there. That was like a thing that they were acting on, and then they made the unsafe part safe, right? You don't in real times now, that whole thing, that whole section would have been green screen. And it's just a waste because it adds so much when you see the
Yeah.
reality that they get to interact with as real. It
No,
makes
with
such a huge difference. And the other superpower he has is that he gets the best out of his actors. And I feel like that is a lot of Norman Lear that he got to grow up and act with on All in the Family, Carol O'Connor, two of the most like impressive people that I feel like are also really sensitive actors who know how to, or sensitive people who know how to act as a jerk while being a sensitive person in Carol O'Connor. And Norman Lear, who's just so sensitive and wonderful that he can bring the best out and tell such an incredible story from all perspectives, taking into account those unheard voices so much that he did. So I feel like those are two things that Rob Reiner is able to really carry into
No.
every movie that we've watched so far for him.
And to your point with Reiner films, and like it'd be interesting to see like what I don't have this movie on physical. I don't know if there are like deleted scenes, but with Reiner films, you said it gets you like it sucks you right into the story. There's no fat. Like there's no wasted energy. There's no wasted space. There's never. I mean, Spinal Tap obviously was a lot of improv, so it feels like sometimes they were intentionally wasting your time on some things, but it's at the same time, like, they're put together like, in just the right way that you never feel bored. You never, like, sit up and go, "How much longer is this?"
No, I agree. All right. Well, I think that puts a bow on Stand By Me. Let's give our final rating and review of the movie.
I'll start. Since Stand By Me
Okay.
is fantastic, it's a really good movie. It is a movie that, like, if you haven't seen it before and you're not sure what you'll think of it, I say watch it because you will if you're like me, you'll do the same thing I did with this and the same thing I did with Life of Chuck. I just sat through the credits because I just couldn't move on to the next thing. It was a an indie, and part of that's because they played Stand By Me, which is a great song, but I just sat there and wanted to then just absorb the ending of, this really touching story that, maybe has some spots where it may not be as strong as others, but overall really enjoyed it. 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5.
Nice, 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 nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a genuinely scary moment in the middle with a lot of vomit.
Yeah. Yeah,
Or
it's a great
upsetting.
movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I feel like it sat with me in the. I didn't sit with the credits like you did, David, but it did feel like it sat with me for a minute after it ended. It's just still a very. It's a good. I think it's one of those movies like you should watch every now and then as a reminder. Like, hey, remember this? And remember that
Mm.
things are real and they're. I don't know. Everybody has a dead body they're looking for. Maybe that's it. So I think it's a 4.5 out of 5 for me as well.
Nice. My first time, it certainly wasn't the coming of age story that I expected. I don't mean that in a negative way. It just didn't, that's not what I expected. Performances were great. I think that the direction that Reiner gives them and lets them go, just lets them be, is really great. I'm not going to quite give it that extra boost, but I will land in a 4 out of 5.
Sweet.
Totally respectable. All right. Great lineup, great scores, great month of films
I agree. We started
for
off
Rob
with a
Reiner month.
good representation and honoring of an incredible director who was taken so soon and tragically in such a ridiculously wasted political space as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All
Well,
right. I got
yeah.
some Letterboxd reviews here to go through while we think about what the community has given this movie as its average for our Letterboxd game. First, we've got 5 stars. Kiefer Sutherland was really about to kill those children. I think that's probably true.
Was.
Yeah, Kiefer was
Um,
mean in this. We
4
didn't talk about him
stars.
enough, but he was mean.
Kind of like Little Women for boys, if you really think about it.
There you go.
Yes.
I like that a lot. 5 stars, an R-rated film that every 10-year-old boy must see. I don't disagree. Um, and then finally, 4.5 stars. God damn, I was just expecting a couple of punks running through the woods, not this heartfelt, emotional jerk.
You expect him to just get into like weird little scamps.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Yeah.
well,
nope.
Josh, you won last week, and we are
Yeah,
all
we're tied.
tied, so no one's behind.
I
But
know.
since Josh is the most recent winner, and I won the week before that, I say Garrett, you go first, since
I
you
agree.
have the longest drought now at
Yep.
two games.
Let's see what we can do. I feel like this is going to be a pretty solid 4-star movie, actually. I think people are going to really respect it. I think they're going to land where I'm at, is really at a 4-star, solidly.
All right, then
Solidly 4.
I'm gonna
Wow.
say it's a 3.8.
I don't want to be predictable.
Ooh. But you can be.
It's tough when we
Yeah.
pick good movies.
So, yeah, I know.
Like,
I mean, you got to play the game. This is long term, fellas.
Mm.
I'm gonna pick 3.7.
Ooh.
Okay, you're
I'm
covering,
gonna
covering the range.
I'm gonna hedge the other way just to
Okay.
see. Just to see.
Tried that and it did not work in my
Yeah,
favor.
it probably won't, but we'll see here. Oh my God! It did not work in my favor. It's gonna make Garrett the winner by default. Even you undershot it a little bit. This is a
Oh.
4.2.
A 4.2.
Yeah,
That's
Oh,
amazing.
That
it's
is
for it.
amazing.
I love
That is
whenever
great.
the Letterboxd community likes it more than we do.
Yeah.
That
wow.
is. I'm actually really happy
wow.
about that. I kind of thought that there'd be some downers on here. Well, that's
Not
only
so
1 point
much.
for Garrett though, so that just makes the score Garrett 3, me 2, Josh 2.
Ooh,
All
you know
right.
what else is 3? This trophy.
Oh man, coming home with me this year.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Long
Maybe you
way to
got
go.
12 long months to find out.
Long way to go.
Be sure you subscribe to the show on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you get podcasts. You can go to so manysequels.com and find those links, all of our past episodes, our social media, and more. Let us know what you thought about Stand By Me, your favorite Rob Reiner movies, or what you're watching these days. We'll be starting up a new theme next month. I believe we are talking about best writing
Yeah, like
awards at the
screenplays
Oscars.
or
Best
something.
screenplay nominees for the Oscars, getting ready for the Academy Awards coming up in March. So
Yes.
stay tuned for that soon.